Paul.
Yeah.
Check out this latest issue, the first issue of the Northfield News, the new Northfield News. It says, thumbs up to Paul Bean's Creemee stand.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, my goodness.
Besides Rocket J is on North Main Street.
Wow.
You never know what you're going to read in a good local community newspaper.
Well, that's incredible. What a community news service that is right there to give me a shout out. They didn't even tell me they were going to do that. I'm embarrassed a little bit.
So, the Northfield News, under new ownership, Volume 1, Number 1. And congratulations and kudos and thank you to the A-Bears for putting this out. Went to a journalism conference this morning, and it was a lot of, oh no, what's the future of Vermont journalism? We're running out of money. The internet's eating our lunch, et cetera, et cetera. But there's still people like the A-Bears who are trying to turn a buck and do a community service by putting out a good community newspaper. Good job.
You know, I think Miss Abear, they just moved back to Vermont, if I'm not mistaken. I think that they live down in New Hampshire.
That's right.
She ran for office down there, from what I understand. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone out there who maybe knows. But
Pelham, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
You're right.
That sounds right.
And they had a newspaper, or maybe have a newspaper down there. And he has a Norwich, he worked at Norwich for a while at the university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, hey,
definitely.
That's great. But you know, that show on Vermont journalism, it's going to be a banger when we do it. But it's not going to be today. Because today we're talking about what happened last night. The epic beatdown of Joe Biden. The Biden debate disaster. We'll be talking about that, and we really want your opinions, and we want your call-ins. Oh, by the way, this is Friday at 4, BDC TV, with social media director Paul Bean, our intrepid engineer Caleb Morvan. Thank you, Caleb, who, by the way, has been weighing in on some of his opinions and what he's observed about the debate. So, but the thing that's really different about the show tonight is we have a phone number to call in. You can call in. How about that? Our phone number is 802-793-8479. And so we'll just get it started.
Yeah, have at it, folks. Now, let's hear us out real quick. We are testing this out. We're not sure how well this is going to work. We've tried it. We've tested the phone calls, see if it works. But, Caleb, if you want to put it on camera 3 so people can see the phone number. And we already do have a comment from EJ. He writes, by design, it's Michelle. Rush Limbaugh called this years ago. And you know what? I was just thinking of Rush Limbaugh before we went live, because I was thinking, how cool is it that we're taking phone calls? We're just like Rush, man. That was the dream from the beginning, if I remember correctly.
In the Golden Bean Chevrolet studio. So great, with one hand tied behind my back. Yeah. Oh, Rush, man.
That's too bad.
We can only dream of approaching anything like him. So we do welcome your calls and your texts and your chats and all the usual ways of reaching us. And how can people watch us, Paul?
Well, if you mean watch us or
both.
Write to us. Well, if you're out there watching, of course, please be sure to subscribe. And we already have a caller guy. We already have somebody calling.
Come on. Okay, this is going to be fun. This is going to be scary.
All right,
but
here
go ahead.
we go. You are live on CreemeeCast VDC TV. Hello.
Hey, this is the assistant editor calling. Timothy Page calling in. Just A, testing this. B, Paul, I do have to say, I believe I messaged you earlier, but in case you didn't see it, I really like that overview you had of the debate last night, if we can call it that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it very much, Tim. How did I know you were going to be the first caller? How did I know?
Well, I had to figure out if the thing worked.
Hey, I'm curious. Is there feedback on your end? Because there's tons of feedback on mine.
There's some.
Okay. Well,
Not
we're
a
gonna
whole lot, but it's that echoey kind of thing, kind of in and out.
see me. I'm trying to hold my phone as far away from the microphone as possible, so we'll see how that does. That's interesting.
But,
Do not adjust your set.
I'm also hearing.
Apparently, somebody's saying there's no audio from caller.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Puffin, for writing in. So you can't hear the audio from the caller. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to keep testing this out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, nothing like live TV, huh, folks? Okay. Well, that's fine. So if you want to reach us now, chat, the usual ways, the usual suspects of getting a hold of us. And let's just dive right into this. So last night, we all knew.
Somebody just wrote, Kevin Mouth Almighty writes, "Hello, it sounds clear over YouTube." So maybe some can hear, some can't. I don't know. We're going to have to.
Oh, I see.
But all the comments have come from YouTube so far. So if you guys want to try to call in, feel free. But we'll see what we can do, and keep us updated with the feedback. We want to know.
Yes.
But anyway, guys, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's not. That's a lot more important than the thing I was going to say. Okay. So anyway, everyone knew this was going to be, two, sort of challenged guys on doing debates, and everyone knew that Joe Biden sometimes had some difficulty keeping his thoughts together. But oh boy, last night we saw something that it really wasn't pretty. And frankly, we're all, especially those of us getting on in years, we're all a little scared of this. Dementia is not something to laugh at, or certainly when it's happening to someone else. But that is what we saw last night. I can't think of it being much of anything else. Maybe there was another explanation, but Joe Biden couldn't finish his sentences. Many of the sentences he made no sense, and we've got to ask, what's going to happen now? I was at this journalism conference this morning, and there was a reporter for a large, very influential national news organization there, someone who's totally clued in to what's going on in D.C. And I asked her, what do you think of the debate? And she said, it was a catastrophe. Well, what do you mean? It was a disaster. I said, well, for who? For Biden. And she said no great surprise, there's already a definite move afoot to have him replaced.
Yeah.
And I guess the how it would happen and the who would do it are really the two big questions. The how would be, this person said that Joe Biden only listens really to two people. Jill Biden, his wife, and Chuck Schumer, the head of the U.S. Senate. And if they can sit down and have an intervention with him and say, look, for whatever reason, the good of the country, the whatever, really we got to go in another direction here, he might go along with that. But, all the delegates have all been voted for him. So there's almost no way they could literally say, no, Joe, you can't do it.
If he wants to do it, he can do it.
Well, it kind of looks that way. It would have to be an extraordinary measure to change that, unless he dropped out, which then raises the question, well, who's next?
Yeah. Well, and we already had one comment saying, oh, it's Michelle, which
Michelle
Obama. That's my assumption. Maybe they meant, I don't know, some other Michelle, but I assume.
Probably not Michelle Pfeiffer.
No, probably not. Probably Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do have some comments. Big Siege writes, and it looks like we have a caller.
Oh, okay.
All
Hold on, Big Siege.
Hold on, Big Siege. We'll come back to you. This is Kevin Ryan.
Hey.
Kevin, can you hear me?
I can.
Now, please, anyone out there who's listening, give us some feedback on the sound. Kevin, if you want to let us know your thoughts, feel free.
Are we live?
Oh, yeah, we're live.
Oh, terrific. Well, I did hear what Guy was saying about dementia, and yes, you want to be respectful, but on the other hand, I heard that the debate last night was so bad, the Democrats are thinking of replacing Joe Biden with Jimmy Carter.
Oh, Kevin.
I was actually I got quite a bit of response to like 25,000 views on Twitter with that last night.
You wrote that on Twitter, and people thought that was funny?
Yes, very much so, actually.
I'll see if I can pull that up.
Yep. But I was actually live tweeting during the debate last night, and some of the things Biden said. He was the only president in the 20th century not to have any troops die under his command.
Yeah.
That was a mess. I don't know. Did you catch that?
I did. I said, what is he talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I understand aphasia, which is an inability to speak. But when he wasn't speaking, when he was listening to Trump, with the look on his face, he was not clear.
Right.
No, that's what I was saying. Shout out to CNN for actually showing the split screen on the whole time during the debate. They didn't have to do that, and like they usually don't. And Biden, when Trump was talking to me, he's standing there like he wasn't even there. It was so bizarre.
Yeah, and I think they're in deep trouble, and I have heard that if Joe Biden is removed, which I think is likely, because enough people will go to him and say, Joe, you're just not going to get support, that the replacement would be Whitmer, Governor Whitmer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From Wisconsin.
Yep.
Michigan.
Yeah, I thought it was Michigan.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
The heir apparent, of course, is Gavin Newsom from California, but his popularity is terrible.
Mm-hmm. Imagine that.
He's got lower approval ratings in California than Biden does nationwide.
Oh, my gosh.
He also just has that evil guy look on his face. I don't know. That's just me anyway.
Yeah, it comes across a little Joel Osteen for me, quite honestly.
That's an interesting.
Yeah. What a fitting analogy. I never really thought of that, Kevin, but that's a good one. Yeah.
So I just wanted to let Paul know. Certainly, I don't rant or scream because of the way he was describing my comments last week.
Who was saying that?
You were saying. Well, Kevin Ryan said that we're going to do this and that. I don't talk like that.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll make sure that. Okay. Now we know what you sound like, so we can work with it.
Yep. And by the way, if you guys are doing call-ins, you can actually set up with a service. I'm not promoting it or anything, but it's a service called StreamYard. And
okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you can actually bring people who have camera setups and cut them into the show.
That's very interesting.
It's potentially a good idea.
Yeah, StreamYard.
I watch a lot of panel shows on YouTube, like Yellow Flash and Comic Artist Pro Secrets, and they often bring in guests and other YouTubers, and they can have a panel as many as 10 people at once.
Now that would be pretty cool. I actually kind of had a similar thought last night when I was watching the debate guy. I said, man, look at that team of people. I was watching some recaps and stuff on social media and on YouTube and whatever. And there's like groups of people in let's say a war room all talking about it together. And I said, I think on the primary night, we need to try something like that and then get ready for it as we get. Remember we did on town meeting day?
Yes, wouldn't that be cool?
We need to do something like that. And we could totally do it here. I mean, we have the space
with Kevin Ryan in the center square.
Why not? Yeah. Hey, Kevin.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks for calling in. We really appreciate. I mean, I guess Tim technically is the first caller, but you are the first guest because Tim is of course part of the team. So thank you so much.
I really need an outlet to get Vermont news. I get tons of national news, but boy, is it tough to figure out what's going on without Vermont Daily Chronicle.
Well, thank you so much,
Kevin.
Yeah, it means
Appreciate
a lot.
It.
So thanks so much, Kevin. We're gonna go back to the chat here because I want to get back to what Big Siege was saying, and then some people had some to say. So thanks so much, and we'll hear from you next time.
I'll stick around. Thank you.
Yep. Let's see here. Big Siege was going to write, and I couldn't get the point to reading it. And I want to make sure that we get it out. It appears the Democrats have done a 180 on their initial reaction to the debate. Now they're saying it was just a bad night, an accident. And I guess this is a perfect segue, actually, to the comment or the tweet that Barack Obama posted last night, or maybe it was just a few hours ago. Caleb, you want to pull that up? Bad debate nights happen. Trust me, I know. But this election is a choice between someone who has fought for ordinary folks his entire life and someone who only cares about himself. Between someone who tells the truth. I don't know how to silence it. Mike, you're going to have to wait a second, all right?
No worries.
Okay, between someone who tells the truth and someone who knows from right and wrong and will give it to the American people straight, and someone who lies straight through his teeth for his own benefit. Last night didn't change that, and that's why so much is at stake this November. So even Obama is saying, bad debate nights happen. Trust me, I know. Right?
Yeah.
I
have a response to that.
Sure, go ahead.
So sure, but Barack Obama on his worst night never had a night like Joe Biden had. And what it really made me think about, forget about the politics, forget about all that stuff. I'm thinking about DEFCON 1. I'm thinking about the nuclear football. I'm thinking about the chief of staff saying, Mr. President, it appears that the Russians have launched. They say it is a false radar test. What should we do? And what is Joe Biden? And he's the only one who can make that call. So there'll either be some generals kind of having a group huddle saying, what do you think we ought to do? Because this guy can't make up his mind. I want someone who knows what's going on in a crisis, as in an end of the world crisis.
So we have a caller. We have a call from Mike Kaczynski. Mike's an old friend of mine. Mike, thanks so much for calling. And how you doing today, man?
I'm trying to recover from what the heck we just saw last night.
Mike, hold on a second. You got some feedback coming in. I can hear myself on the audio. Turn off your sound. Mike, hold on a second. You got some feedback coming in. I can hear myself on the audio. Turn off your sound. Is that because of us?
Alrighty, is this better?
That's better.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm just trying to recover from what we just saw last night. I mean, the United States and the United Kingdom are both going through general election campaigns right now. Both Rishi Sunak, the current British Prime Minister, and Joe Biden, the current U.S. president, are considered to be dead men walking. The difference is with Rishi Sunak, we all know that that's just a political metaphor. In Joe Biden's case, what we saw is that is literally true.
I can't disagree with you, Mike. I mean, it's hard because we were talking about it earlier. We all want to joke about this, right? We all want to say, ha ha, it's kind of funny. But at the end of the day, I've had family members that have gone through stuff like this, and it's actually downright depressing. And honestly, it's shame on the Democratic Party for letting him do this. Shame on his family. I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's like, and I think that's the thing. Like, most of the people that were watching last night were shocked by what they saw.
No, I've never seen somebody lose a debate within the first 3 minutes. Within the first 3 minutes, we all saw that President Biden, he looked visibly tired and exhausted, and he was whispering his answers. I mean, it's just, last night was an incredibly dark day to be an American. And because during an unprecedented cost of living crisis, a crisis on our southern border with Mexico, a war in Ukraine, a war in Gaza, and a conflict that is about to start in Lebanon, we need a president who is mentally sound. And what we saw was that Joe Biden's cognitive decline is far worse than anyone ever thought. And then to add insult to injury, after the debate, Dr. Joe Biden escorted him down a set of incredibly small stairs.
Yeah, I saw that too.
He needed help with that.
Yeah.
And then she publicly congratulated him with the same tone of voice that people use to talk to toddlers.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be frank here. We have Edith Wilson 2.0 running America during 3 conflicts, all of which could go nuclear, a border crisis, and the worst cost of living crisis in recent memory.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
We all knew
No,
that the American people were going to lose last night.
No, I agree,
We
Mike.
had no
I agree.
idea that it was going to be this bad.
Mike, just to piggyback off your comment, and thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate so much. You're the second caller, if you will. And thank you, Mike. But Brian Wright writes, Biden stumbled out of the gate and never quite realized where he was at. There are grown adults in our government that should be held accountable for allowing this facade to continue. Adult abuse. And I never cared for the guy. I mean,
Right.
that really,
Good point.
it like Mike kind of was just saying, this is like to us, it's so obvious. How could this be?
So the reference to Edith Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was a two-term president during World War I, had a stroke halfway through his second term, and Edith Wilson, his wife, essentially, when some people say ran the government, made all the real decisions that the president had to make. And there were people, as with Joe Biden, there were people around him who made a lot of decisions, his cabinet, but really it was Edith Wilson. And I hadn't really ever made that parallel that Mike just made, but that's actually a pretty good point. How is Joe Biden calling a lot of the shots? And the war that Mike didn't mention, with all the other ones, is the one that's looming between China and Taiwan.
Yeah.
And at least two of those conflicts are because, arguably would not have happened if Joe Biden hadn't fumbled. The Ukraine thing, he said in public, well, we're not really sure if we'd respond if Putin invaded Ukraine. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like a week before he did it. So one could say that, Joe Biden owns some of that war.
Yeah.
And the Gaza thing, would that have happened if Trump would Iran have been emboldened to get Hamas to do that?
Oh, okay.
Probably not. If the Trump administration was still around and still picking their pocket of every loose dollar.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, we do have some comments. Annette Baker writes, Biden is delusional about his own record. Hi, guy.
Hey, Annette. Annette is a former Burlington area resident who was a state representative in Pennsylvania and a strong Trump supporter, as I remember, and a terrific person. In fact, I believe she met her husband in a Sunday school class that I taught.
Aww.
So one of my legacies is that they met each other, I think, in my Sunday school class.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Turt Nelson writes, and Brandon seems to have forgotten about Afghanistan. I remember saying, I've never had anyone die under my administration. I mean, what about the total craziness of leaving Afghanistan? I mean, and the amount of money and materials and resources, weapons, everything we left over there. I just, Trump didn't even really. That's the thing. Somebody made the point to me that, like, Trump, sure, he did an okay job, like in the beginning of the debate, for like the first 40 minutes. A lot of people were saying he was relatively disciplined for Trump.
He was.
And then even towards the end, he was still pretty good, but he started to like really do his thing, the Trump things. And Trump didn't really have to win. He just had to let Biden lose, and that's kind of what happened.
Boy, is that ever what happened. And at the very end, you may have missed this part, Biden turned to him and said, "You're a whiner. You're a whiner," and just really let him have it.
Yeah.
Morals of an alley cat. You did mention that
I did see
part.
that, yeah.
And Trump just went, yeah, just gave his sort of kind of the Trump smirk and kind of shouldered it off, and which was just really what he needed to do. I was saying, oh, please don't take the bait.
Yeah.
Don't jump all over him. And he didn't.
Well, Caleb, if you want to show the phone number again, we do have some new viewers. We have people tuned in. Folks, if you want to call in and you want to participate in the conversation, this is a new thing that we're trying out, so bear with us. There's some problems that we're hopefully going to learn about and solve, but it seems to be going pretty well. So if you want to call in and join the conversation, it's 802-793-8479. I got to say, Guy, my favorite part of the debate, if I can even call it my favorite part, but it really kind of was hilarious, was when they started talking about each other's golf handicaps. And everybody's like, oh, this is so ridiculous. I can't believe they're talking about golf handicap and blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe some of you remember there was a video of George Bush years ago on the golf course. And he's talking about, we need to stop these terrorists, and we're going to do everything we can to stop them, and blah, blah, blah. And then he turns around and he goes, now check out this drive. And he goes and then he hits a golf ball, and he's hitting a drive. And it's like, I guess this has kind of always been like part of the political conversation, whether or not people really like it. It means something to somebody.
Golf is probably the most presidential sport. You think I like Dwight Eisenhower,
sure,
and John Kennedy. They all love playing golf. So I think Nixon did too. So yeah.
Speaking of Kennedys, by the way, Kevin Ryan writes Kevin Ryan, Mouth Almighty, writes, Robert Kennedy had 5 million viewers on his counter debate show last night with John Stossel. Could this increase his numbers now? Absolutely. I think it absolutely does. I think I also heard rumor.
Good point.
I heard rumor that Kennedy is open to receiving the Democratic nomination still, which I think is a complete long shot.
Wow.
But I've heard that, and then I've also thought about it like, his numbers definitely should be increasing now, because he's been playing the game now for about a year, saying, and he's put his hat in the ring and he's trying to make it happen. And so he's been talking. I think everybody's kind of taken him not very seriously. But after last night, I think there's a lot of Democrats and Republicans, by the way, who are saying,
yes,
I don't know if I can take either of these guys seriously. What is going on? I mean, they're arguing about golf handicaps and calling each other suckers and losers. And
oh, that was terrible.
That was terrible.
That was awful.
That was just like I was cringing when I heard that.
That's the part that doesn't make me feel sorry for Joe Biden.
No,
because there was a venality and a vitriol there that was was very upsetting to me. Another name I want to throw out there, I'm surprised no one's brought this up. It's Bernie Sanders.
For the Democratic nomination?
Yeah.
I'm surprised nobody's brought that up either.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that till you just said it.
Yeah.
Well, what about our conversation the other day?
Right. For those of you who missed it, which is, I think, 99.9% of you, I probably shouldn't have said that. Right?
No, we're shaming them. We're guilting them.
Right.
Yeah.
The gist of it is when we were down at Wells Beach, my wife and I, we had a great conversation with a Jewish woman from New York City who said that Bernie Sanders could never be elected president because he's bad on Israel, and therefore he will always lose the Jewish vote.
Yeah.
And she said all New York Jews know this, that 9 out of 10 are supporting the state of Israel. They know where Bernie stands on this, that he's always going to put them second to whatever oppressed group, including the Palestinians. And she said, if you can't win your own identity group, then how in the world are you going to win the rest of the country? So she said he never could have won and he never will win. But having said that, does make you wonder, there's someone who in a debate could absolutely stand toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. And for that matter, I think RFK could too. I don't know about Gretchen Whitmer. I can't imagine. Gavin Newsom is such a mess. I can't imagine that. Gretchen Whitmer has a very poor record on civil liberties. She has a attorney general who is really bad on civil liberties. So I think that once people sort of open that box, they maybe would want to start closing it again on her. But I don't know.
I've also heard somebody, actually Representative Kenny Gosselin, mentioned to me the potential of Joe Manchin.
Wow.
Which, I don't know, I personally think he's way too independent of a Democrat for that to be a possibility, but not a bad option if that were the case.
Well, let's say you're the Democrat power and the renewable power industry. Oh, no, we don't want Joe Manchin.
Yeah, no.
And really, the rest of them, no. It'd be almost like Republicans saying, we want Adam Kinzinger or something like that.
You know what? I'm not going to lie. I'd kind of like to see Bernie jump in.
Make it interesting.
Somebody writes, though, I just want to Bernie can't. Where did they say it? Michael actually writes, Bernie Sanders isn't on the short list because he runs the Senate Budget Committee. I didn't know that.
I don't know why that would be a problem.
I don't know why that would be a problem either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe, Mike, if you want to add context.
Sure.
Anyway, Mike King writes, credit where credit, I think they mean credit where credit is due.
Yes.
CNN was fairly fair. Mm-hmm. And I don't think have we mentioned that yet?
I don't think we really have. And I think that's really true. When Ted Turner started CNN, these many decades ago,
that's right.
That's kind of the way it was. CNN really tried to just be fair and neutral and down the middle. And then what happened to the rest of the media absolutely happened to CNN. In fact, perhaps they led the charge. But they were trying very hard last night to be fair. They asked tough questions of both. When they both got off course, they would bring them back to the questions again. Good job, Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. I think I just said that, didn't I? Yeah.
Well, and it's like I said too, the keeping the camera shots on both them and him, just showing them both. It was so important because, Biden, you have to be inside of his mind. He's thinking, okay, I'm not on camera right now, so I don't have to, or is he thinking this? I don't really know, but I don't know.
Isn't that the question?
Yeah.
What is Joe Biden thinking?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it was like you could see in his face like he wasn't really paying attention. And I think the most classic, memorable soundbite from the whole thing was when Biden said this run-on statement that literally made no sense, and it was like, what is he talking about? And then they go to Trump to give him a chance to respond, and Trump goes, yeah, I don't know what he just said. I don't think he knows what he just said.
Right.
And Biden, even when Trump said that, Biden didn't really even have a visible response. Like his face was almost like it was like he didn't even hear it or didn't understand. It was so strange because you'd expect, if he actually understood what Trump had just said, you'd expect him to be like, what do you mean? But he didn't even emote anything. It was weird.
Right. Mm. Wow.
Well, we do have some more comments.
Okay.
Kevin Ryan writes in, Mouth Almighty, we haven't had this much of a Democrat nomination mess since 1968. Humphrey, Kennedy, and McGovern. Look what happened.
Another Kennedy.
That's right. Yeah.
His dad.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Timothy Page writes, Bernie just had a career. Timothy Page writes, Bernie just had a career crippling expose about him on Creemee Cast. That's why he won't be a nominee. You're actually right, I think. I think we got to him, Guy. I think
Delusions of Grandeur 2.0.
And here's a response from Michael. He writes, the reason Bernie's leadership of the Senate Budget Committee is a hindrance on being president is that he currently controls domestic policy. Wouldn't that make it better for him to then be president? I mean, like your point, Mike, I understand what you're saying, but it's like, I don't think that would make, like, if he was controlling domestic policy, he'd have a lot more control of domestic policy if he was president of the United States. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. But Guy, is there anything that you want to add?
Well, I wrote some notes. Yeah, there is. And it's sort of a Vermont connection besides the Sanders thing. During the whole George Floyd thing, I would see Vermont Democrats expressing this outrage at people who were criticizing the whole Black Lives Matter idea, having it painted on State Street in Montpelier, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't so much that they criticized it, which is fair game. It was the attitude that was brought to it. It was the outrage, and what it struck me as repeatedly the mock outrage. You're not really outraged here. You're just ginning this up. And when I listened to Biden last night, that's what I heard with his criticism of Trump, is this sort of angry vitriol, but it was all sound and fury signifying nothing. It wasn't really coming from the heart. Whereas when Trump would get really angry about the border, and that was, boy, did he ever pound that home. To me, that came across as just much more heartfelt, and look that the damage he's doing to this country, and all the fentanyl coming over the border, and the drug dealers coming over the border, and the human trafficking, and all the jobs being lost to people. And he brought up a good point that isn't discussed very much, which is we're worried about our health care insurance. Well, if we're putting tens of millions, however many, illegal immigrants on, most of them are going on some sort of Medicaid.
Yeah.
Well, what is that going to do? Because they're probably not paying in very much. Maybe some of them are. I don't know. And along those lines, there was if you read the Chronicle today, Tim wrote up a story on the Mexico consulate came to Montpelier, to a church in Montpelier, and they gathered together hundreds of immigrants, including those who are here, sort of quasi-legal status, but state law, Vermont state law says you can get a driver's license, you can get all sorts of documentation, but you need to have some sort of document that proves you are who you are. So the consulate showed up, had a meeting, and issued IDs, passports, driver's license, identification cards off of their Mexican databases for these illegal immigrants living in Vermont so that they could get driver's licenses. And it just sort of struck me as, okay, I guess that's state law, but it's almost like an institutionalization of the illegal immigrant and their sort of legal status here. And Trump was saying we've got to stop. Immigration is good, but not this illegal immigration. This is bad for the country.
It's unchecked.
Yes, unchecked. And he was definitely pounding that home and all the consequences of that. And Caleb, you had mentioned. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but you'd mentioned something about what you had heard in social media over the night and today, having to do with what you heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, everything I saw was, like you had talked about, was just Mr. Biden stumbling over his own words, and then I saw some stuff previous about like people calling him Jacked Up Joe and getting Joe all ready for this big debate, and clearly, obviously, what they did, it didn't work.
Right. They whatever they jacked him up with was not enough.
No.
Well,
yeah.
And that was part of the conversation. It was like people were saying, oh, he's going to be all lively like he was for the State of the Union. And then everybody's like, well, we wanted to see you do a drug test before you come out here, right? And I think he said no, that he wouldn't do it. And then Trump was like, I'll do it. I don't care. I'll do it. And if they gave him anything, and maybe they didn't, but he did not seem well. Right. Caleb, if you want to just flip back to the camera 3 again so we can show everybody. So, guys, we're taking phone calls here today. If you're interested in calling in, it's 802-793-8479. Join in on the conversation. We're going to go for about another, 10 minutes. And so if you want to join in on the conversation, feel free. The chat, of course, is still going. But, yeah, I mean, we're just talking about last night's debate and just the complete insanity. And we want to hear from you and what you think of it. And maybe we would love to hear your opinions and speculations on who you think's going to run and maybe jump into the race and take Sleepy Joe's spot. I mean, I don't know, man. And so we do have a response, though, to explain why it would be bad for Bernie to jump in for the Democratic Party. Mike said, or somebody wrote, I think it's important that we cover this. Basically, if he were to leave the Senate, it would then make an imbalance in the Senate potentially. So right now, I believe the Senate's fairly, and because he's chair of such a powerful committee, for him to then leave and then be in the White House, and he's kind of a loose cannon in the White House. He might not exactly do what the Democratic Party wants them to do.
That's a good point.
They can keep an eye on him and a check on him in the Senate committee. So I could understand that.
And you've also got to wonder, would it be just a smart move for them? Because really, could he be elected if the country's more and more skeptical about socialism than ever, and I think they are, I think we are, then Bernie's brand, Actually, you know what? A good example of that is Jamal Bowman, member of the Squad, had a primary election Tuesday. He got pounded by a centrist, pro-Israel Democrat. He lost by double digits. And this was an original member of the Squad, of the Progressive Squad. Bernie went down there, campaigned for him, stumped for him, stood with AOC and Jamal Bowman. Yeah, we're going to win this, for the people and all that. He got in New York City, or really right outside of it, Westchester County. He got pounded. So that's
surprising.
Yeah. So you got to wonder, and partly a lot of that was Israel, and that the Squad has, it's the one thing the socialists are really predictable at is they talk like they care about justice, but they always pick the wrong side. They always pick the side of tyranny and death and genocide. And you look at Cambodia and Russia and China and Vietnam and Korea and Venezuela and now the Palestinian thing. It's the people who are really pushing this in the United States are socialists.
Yeah.
That's the whole. And one of the point that I forget who I was listening to said that the next time you see one of these genocide, Israel out of Gaza kind of things, ask them, look around, do they have their own nation's flag there?
Where's this?
Any protest, any college campus,
wherever.
Yes. Wherever you see them gathered and saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and ask them and look around, do they have their own flag? And if you don't see one, say, do you ever salute your own flag, your national flag? Do you ever sing your national anthem? Do you ever say a Pledge of Allegiance to whatever country, wherever this is happening? Because it's happening all over the world. Routinely, no. There's no national allegiance. There's only this sort of socialist, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing.
Well, and that's how they justify it.
Right.
Yeah, it really does not make any sense. And Kevin Ryan writes in, Bernie Sanders is one of the best campaigners in the past 100 years. He doesn't lose. That's me saying this. And I get what you're saying. And now we have a question from Big Siege. Big Siege writes, Guy thinks Israel is never on the wrong side, ?
I didn't say that they're never wrong.
Yeah.
I think in this situation, I'm glad you asked that, because here's what I think. I think that they have as much right to have a country, their own country, as anyone. I think the founding of the State of Israel was legitimate for a lot of reasons, and we could revisit them all, but basically, yes, it was. Now, you have people who have been trying ever since statehood to knock them over, to kick them out, to kill as many as possible, and to destroy the State of Israel. They have a right not only to defend themselves, the way Bernie Sanders says, well, they have a right to defend themselves. They have a right to do what we did in World War II. For example, is we got attacked, say, by Japan. What did we do? Did we send our aircraft carriers out to 100 miles around Pearl Harbor and said, look, don't attack us anymore, we'll fight back? Or did we go find where the enemy was and destroy their ability to make war, no matter how fanatical they were? Oh, yes, we did. We set cities on fire because we nuclear bombed 2 cities because the military threat existed to our homeland. And we destroyed, until they surrendered, we destroyed them. And compared to that, and we did that, by the way, in Europe, too. Yeah. Same thing.
The Allies, at least.
Yes, the Allies did, of which, we were one of the 3 big players. So, we have done this, and we did it with a clear conscience, saying they attacked us, they threatened our ability to exist, and we destroyed their ability to ever fight back. And right now, for Japan and Germany are much better off now than they were beforehand. And the hope is that maybe there could be some sort of change in Palestine where they would say, we're just going to give this up. We cannot do this. We need to somehow coexist. And I think it's really up to the Palestinian Hamas leadership and Iran to say, Uncle, we give up. And, well, no one thought the Nazis were going to do that. No one thought the Japanese were going to do that. And at some point, you have to realize it. And the Israeli army is pushing them to that point. And they're doing it with far more precision, far more humanity, times 1,000 than we did in World War II.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
Well, I appreciate your response, Guy. And Big Cheese, we always enjoy raising challenging questions as such, and don't hesitate to do it. That's what we're here for. So we've gone on now for about 50 minutes, folks. Just going to give you one last chance. If you want to call in, you have about 30 seconds to make it happen. So there's the phone number, 802-793-8479. And feel free to join us. And we want to hear your thoughts on last night's debate, or maybe Bernie Sanders or Israel, Palestine, whatever it is. Let us know. Big Siege, I see your comment. We let Pearl happen similarly to Israel on October 7th, some say. I have also read some history on that. However, I can't really verify right here live on the show whether or not that is true. That would take some serious digging.
There is a theory, but it's not compelling. It's the possibility that Israel did it.
Yeah.
You got to wonder.
You could see that.
But Pearl Harbor, they knew some sort of attack was coming somewhere. They didn't know it was coming to Pearl. Their radar was a joke back then, and the Japanese pulled off an incredible surprise attack, which they were pretty good at, by the way. They'd done it in 2 other wars. They'd started 2 other wars with preemptive sneak attacks.
No, we knew, the United States knew from probably 1940 that this was a potential, and then it became more and more serious in the 42. So Big Siege also writes, VT Yankee special story win. Guy, maybe Tuesday?
Boy,
Guy,
maybe.
He's like, I really want to go back?
Yeah, that's like, that's pretty traumatic, man.
Yeah.
Having to relive that. But there is an update to that story now, because the governor has been saying there's plenty of nuclear out there, so why not just use New England's nuclear power instead of building turbines and solar panels all over the place? And it's a really good question. So at some point, you know what? We should get one of the experts on the phone, and once we got our phone system worked out, and we'll have a call-in on that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
let's make that happen. Well, I have nothing else to say. Guy, you want to close it out for us?
Sure do. Caleb, thanks so much for engineering, and thank you, Paul, and thank you everyone for calling in. If you haven't yet, please like this and subscribe, because that's how this thing grows. And thank you very much, and we'll see you next week sometime, at least next Friday at 4. God bless.